Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Sacred Anarchies, a post-church podcast. I'm Maria French, and I am here with Barry Taylor. How are you, Baz?
I'm good, thank you. Long time no see.
I know it's not like we just spent a couple days together or anything in London, having
Right.
cocktails, shopping in Liberty and Columbia Road, and all those fabulous things that we love to do now that lockdown has eased a little bit.
Yeah, albeit temporarily, probably.
I know. Well, we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed,
Yeah.
but and kind of enjoy while we can in safety of masks. You're jabbed up. My husband is about to be jabbed up. I'm waiting for mine.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to be sort of talking about this with so much weird stuff that's going on in the world, but
I know.
our experiences are kind of contextual. And so here in Britain, we've been locked down for a long time, and it's kind of nice to have a taste of some sense of what used to be normal.
Yeah, although it doesn't feel so normal anymore because, as we've seen being out in London the past few days, there are zero tourists, which is fine. But I think a lot of people, I mean, we expected, so it's Tuesday, we expected yesterday, which was Monday, which was the day where restaurants are allowed to open up inside. We expected places to be full in terms of what they were allowed for capacity. And there was really just hardly anybody.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I'm
I think
sure
people are
it might have been different at night time. I don't know, but
maybe. I think people are still a little spooked and kind of playing it safe, and I'm all about that. I think that's
oh
really
yeah,
great.
we're also dealing with the Indian variant, so that kind of
Indian variant. Yeah.
put the
Yeah.
mockers on it, didn't it?
What was
What
that?
are you talking about this week then?
Say that I don't know why I can't hear you. Say it again.
I said that put the mockers on that then, didn't it? But on another note, what are we talking about this week?
On another note, we are talking about algorithms. We
Ooh,
are talking about the dream of being the singular human with some sense of uniqueness, but at the same time, always playing into the algorithm way before it was called an algorithm,
mm,
and what that might mean for faith, church, Christianity in the West, all of those things.
wow.
So, you
Take it
know,
away.
just a little drop in the bucket for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. We always say we're going to try and do a shorter podcast, and we can never quite get done when it's you and I in under 20, but let's see what we can do.
Let's see.
Let's see. So you, by the way, I need to get on this mailing list that you're on because I love that article that you sent me.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it was basically about a car ad for Infinity.
yeah.
And the ad was live beyond the algorithms.
That's
And
that's the tagline.
basically, that's the tagline. The promise of the ad was if you drive our car, if you drive our Infinity, you will be busting out of the shell of the algorithm, the shell of marketing, the shell of what society wants you to be, because you are going to be unique and singular and you are going to be driving the Infinity car. And obviously, it plays upon people's desires to be really special in the world, to
Yeah.
be different from everyone else. But the whole you know, ethic and ethos behind this article that we read was about the fact that the promise of the ad is escape the norm, but the people who play into that invitation don't realize that they're playing right into the norm. They
Well,
want to
that's
be they want to be the sovereign consumer, but there is really no such thing.
no, and also advertising essentially establishes the norms and then acts like products that it sells you help you break out of the norm when really it's just making you more norm.
Well, it's it's a different word, but it's the same game.
Yeah,
They're playing into the same game. So the different word would be algorithm, but
yeah,
fighting for consumer attention, fighting for, hey, be different in a world of a lot of the same. Don't listen to all the ads that try and sweep you up in being just a faceless consumer, but at the same time listen to our ad.
yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because when you break it down like this, it's really obvious. But at the same time, this is Infinity. These kinds of ads work. They are taking into consideration really hot cultural language of the day that people are rolling their eyes and trying to escape. Everyone's kind of trying to escape the algorithm, which I think is interesting because ever since algorithms have been a thing, I've been like, I love the algorithm. And I know people who love the algorithm because they show me things that I'm interested in. I don't have to go searching too far. They're following my interests, and my interests are on, in recorded in search engines and Google for a reason, because I am looking for something. And so if the algorithms want to take note and throw something in my suggested feed, I'm all about it. I'm really happy, but I'm also very interested in calling a spade and understanding exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. What I'm not interested in is getting caught up in some marketing ploy to escape the algorithm when that's not what's happening. And the author of this article at the end really argues whether that's even possible or not.
To escape it.
To not escape the algorithm, but is there any part of us that is left un what was the word? Subjugated?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is there any part of us that hasn't been told who we are by an algorithm and, pre the last several years, whatever,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
hot word was authentic, be authentic. Now it's escape the algorithm.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I have lots of thoughts about this.
I know
One,
you do.
I think it's very interesting that it tells you the ad alone. You can look at it and go, well, one of the things that it tells you is that the idea of algorithms has entered our collective consciousness at a very high level now. We're aware of the the algorithm and that we all live um, under it. Now,
Yeah.
the interesting thing to me is that the there's a sense in which we've always had algorithms. It's the digital component. There's this really interesting book that I'm reading in a book group called Radical Technologies and the Design of Everyday Life by Adam Greenfield.
I I have that book. It's on a container
Yeah,
ship somewhere over the Atlantic, but I have
and
it.
there's a whole chapter devoted to sort of algorithms, machine learning, and stuff like that, and defining data. And he says a simple way of defining data then might be facts about the world and the people, places, things, and phenomena that together comprise it, that we collect in order that they may be acted upon. And I think it's the acted upon that's the interesting thing to me, because while I understand that you like the algorithm,
Yeah.
um, I find myself actually a little resistant to it
I
because
know you're
I
not
actually
interested.
don't think it's personalized as much as we think it is. I think there's a little bit of an illusion that it's personal. There are things that get directed towards us, but like, those algorithms that, on the music streaming services and stuff like that. It's like, oh, the algorithms worked out what I like, and therefore it's, curating it personally for me. No, it's not actually.
Yeah.
It's putting you in a pool of other people that like the same thing and,
Yeah.
and pushing all that at you. But all that to one side, what I thought was fascinating about the article, which is by an English guy named Rob Horning, um, it is that it really sort of sets this idea that algorithmic living is the new norm for
Yeah.
us. I'm not going to say the new normal, but the new norm. It's normative now to sort of be aware that our lives are dictated by, directed to and from the
Mhm.
various technological algorithms that are at work in the world. Whether it's even, when we went into a restaurant, you have to have the tracing app, the
Mhm.
NHS QR code app. If you
Absolutely.
travel now, you've got to have all this stuff digitally, and all of this is, new algorithms that are coming in to direct our lives and shape our lives. And we're increasingly, I think, under this thing. And of course, then as the ad sort of attempts, how we get out of it, it's so funny. How we get out of it is the same way we got in it, through consumption. It's always the thing. Technology seems to think that technology is the answer to technology's problems, and consumerism seems to be that consumerism is the way to get out of consumerist tendencies. And that whole idea that you can buy this car, this luxury car,
Mhm.
only, and if you do that, you can break out of the norm, you know, by
And
what
to
by
break
what
out
you
of
buy.
the cycle of being digitally tagged and digitally kind of numbered in
Yeah.
terms of what your life should be and who you are as a person, and not just being kind of another sheep, to use popular.
And of course, it's an algorithm in a sense that drives that ad towards certain people because they fit the demographic of
Well,
people
the hilarious
who
thing is
buy
that,
Infinity.
millions of people are gonna see the ad.
Yeah,
Millions of people whose life is currently under, you know, algorithmic forces. And
yeah,
just to be clear, I'm not in love with the algorithms, and well, I'm not in love with the algorithms, but I don't like the algorithms because it gives me everything I want.
I
It's like,
understand.
it's a helpful guide,
Sure, it can be.
kind of point someone in the right direction. But in terms of like living by it, no, no, I don't. And I do find it controversial. I do find it interesting, but it's like you said, it's only called algorithm because it's digital.
Yeah,
Consumers have been targeted via their interests for decades now,
and of
you know,
course
because of the data that's taken and the trends that are happening.
it's the people who code the algorithm. It's the authors of the algorithm that have the real power in this game, and that's what's the interesting thing. As I think generally is the case in many areas of life,
Yeah.
it's where the power lies that the real game happens. And with all of these things, we tend to accept them because we want, they speak to desire, which has already been kind of cultivated, you know, how we desire and what we desire. We think we're making choices that are so free and independent, but really, you know, we're steered towards certain things just by the parts of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
But we seldom think about what the intentions were of the people that created the algorithm in the first place. And the
Yeah.
ultimate intention, it seems to be for the most part, is to generate data that can be sold off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my thing is that, you know, increasingly, it's not that we consume now; it's that we are consumed. We are the product.
Yeah, and well, that's why the author was like, is there any shred of, you know, actual singularity left to us, or, untouched, algorithmized,
Yeah, and
all of that.
I think it's interesting that he sort of raises the question and doesn't fully answer it
Because
because
it's unanswerable. We just don't
well, it
know.
isn't answerable, and I think this is the thing with a lot of things at the moment is the unanswerability of things. There are, for a start, there are no simple answers to any of this.
Exactly.
So, you
Yeah.
know, just, you know, the kind of I'm going to abandon technology thing, that does not free you from the algorithms anyway. You
No.
know, it
And
might free up your time and stuff like
people are
that.
really thinking about I don't know. Like, I see people try and take breaks or attempt, maybe succeed, take breaks from social media all the time. And I'm like, do you, that's fine. I don't personally feel I need big breaks from social media, but I'm also, and I love social media, but I'm also not under the illusion that taking the break from social media will remove a technological component from my life that I would be attempting to do by taking that. Like, I don't think that that will serve the purpose that I think it will. It's such a temporary thing, and our entire lives are digitized. And I understand people trying to move back and forth between digitality and non-digital life, but I just think it's impossible to say, because it's like, we're technology and digital, it's not this thing that we can just pick up and put down when we want. It's now who we are, it's who society is, it's what the planet is. It's where the economy is going, it's where our money is going, it's, where art is going, NFTs, cryptocurrency, all of these things. So I just feel like
Yeah. The other thing about it, the other thing about it all, and I was thinking about this when we talked about what we're going to talk about, and then I started to
yeah,
think a little bit more. You know, the car is called Infinity,
yeah,
and Infinity has this kind of transcendent, immortal afterlife notion to it. You know, it goes on forever, it never stops, you know. And so it made me think about the religious aspect of digitality, and particularly algorithms, because algorithms are very interesting, because what they're basically saying is, in these particular things where they gather up data,
Yeah.
they're basically saying, based on prior things, we can predict the future. And in a sense, it's almost that same kind of tendency we have as human beings to want to be able to control the future outcome, to somehow turn the unknown into the known and the manageable, the uncertain into the
Yeah.
certain, you know, the
That's,
infinity into the finite. And I think that's a fascinating thing to sort of consider when it comes down to those.
well,
What
and that's part one of the critique. I
it's
think part
what
two,
oh, because they call it predictive analytics, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so, you know, it's prediction.
yeah.
So again, this just reminds me of all the religious stuff. You know, I predict, you
Exactly.
know, blah
Well,
blah.
not only that, but the second part of that is the fact that we are rooting our future interests and what we want for the future and the present for that matter in who we were in the past. And I think that's always a problem. And that's the problem with the algorithm, is that it doesn't leave margin for freedom, for change, for U-turns, for,
Yeah,
sharp left turns, all of these things. And I mean, kind of finishing up on, more of a religious note, and we kind of said in the beginning that we would talk a little bit about that, and we haven't so much, which is fine. I think people can make their own connections there. I think some of them may be obvious, but, continuing to try and do things that might work for the future, one, based on things that worked in the past, two, based on interests from the past, and three, as we understood God from the past, is just, it's not really viable, and it's not sustainable, and it doesn't make sense. And
yeah,
so in a sense, it's like when we're talking about church, when we're talking about God, when we're talking about constructs of God and who we think God is, it's an algorithm.
yeah.
And if I just, I don't know, I
Well,
follow.
yeah. Where? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just gonna say, I follow all of those satirical church feeds and church
Sure.
mail and preachers and sneakers, and what what's all, I think you follow them too. We send them back and forth, and we have a good laugh. But like, so much of it is like, these too cool for school, the Carl Lenses of the world, those Hillsong type people, which is, problematic on so many levels. But, this idea of like future, and we're going to be different, and we're going to be cooler, and we're doing this and we're doing that. But every single thing that comes out of their mouths are all things that we've heard a cajillion times before, that is rooted in 20th century, traditional evangelical paradigms, just absolutely boring, based on hype, just vapors, just air. There's actually nothing to it. There's no substance to it. But people think it's the future because it worked once, people liked it in the past, or at the very least, it does something to get people going in the moment.
Yeah,
But it's actually completely unsustainable. And again, all rooted in what they're finding, algorithmically speaking, might work for people, or where people had an interest at one point. And so they're kind of taking off on that trajectory, but it is
yeah.
just the wrong one. Just
I
the
was
wrong.
gonna, yeah. I was just going to say that I think the big difference, and this is sort of where I part company, I guess, if I was ever in company, and as if they'd ever even invite me in. uh, but I mean, where I don't agree with like the kind of technological futurists, and the people that are all about the singularity, and
Yeah,
all that stuff, and the transcending of consciousness by machines, and
sure.
all that kind of thing,
Sure.
is that I think that the essence of being human is abstract thinking.
Hmm.
It's not
That's so.
predictive. You know, there are always those curves that we all do as human beings. It's like you think you know somebody, and then boom, this, you know, they take a sharp left turn, and there's abstraction
Exactly.
inscribed
That
in.
algorithm leave room for.
Well, yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe abstraction can be coded in, or perhaps it will be one day. And perhaps that's what they're aiming for. It seems to be what they're trying to do is replicate, you know, human action and choices. But there's always that. I always come back to that comment, you know, that Nick Cave made when somebody asked him if artificial intelligence could write a great pop song, and he said no, but they could write a good one, but they'll never be able to write a great one, because digital technology and AI is about transcending limits.
Yeah.
And to write a great song, you have to be aware of your own limitations,
Yeah.
and make all the abstractions within that horizon. So I like the fact that this might be a strange thing to say, but I like the fact that we all have limitations, that we're not like superhumans that can do anything and everything. There are lots of things that we cannot do and never will be able to do. But there is stuff, there's gold to be mined. There's alchemy in the makeup of us, you know, our limitations, our possibilities, and the abstraction that we have possess as human beings.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think on that note, it's a good place to end. Wise words. Wise words, my friend, as usual.
All right, then. Well, that's us then for this week, people.
Algorithms, abstractions, and limitations.
Can I just say and I'm not sure, do you still put this on YouTube?
I do.
Okay, so you're wearing this hat today.
Yeah.
How would we describe this? It's not really a beanie, is it? Is it a beanie?
I don't know. Maybe it's like a steak. It would be like it would be a beanie. People are calling it a beanie.
Snap, crackle, and pop hat.
It's not that kind of beanie. Thank you.
But behind over your left shoulder, you have this pink bust of a Greek woman. Yeah. And in a very strange way, the way her hair is tied up is kind of like an ancient version of your hat on your head. There's some abstract thinking as we close today.
There you go. And if anyone listening to the audio of this, if you want to see it, go check it out on YouTube.
That makes sense to you? I don't know. I was just seeing those. While we were talking, I was just seeing.
I guess.
Because she's got this little thing up here like you do.
And I have me looking around the room at like all my little busts and things. But yeah. Well, right. I guess we looked at some of your busts last night on Monday Musings. People can go check that out on our Instagram and IGTV.
For busts.
Busts or bust.
Yep.
Haha.
All right. Toodaloo.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And we will see you again, same time, same place next week. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.